Hello everyone, I'm Philomene Gutierrez. I'm from the Sociology Department. When Dr. Atienza invited me to be moderator for this session, I was wondering, I'm not an anarchist. I'm really an environmental activist. Maybe it has something to do with my job as environmental spaces coordinator and that I supervise the Palma Hall gardens. Or is it because I've been involved in some sort of environmental projects with my group, the UP Mountaineers, and we have started a bike sharing project. And I'd like to mention that one of our very active recipients was Ma'am Ernie, who commutes to work every day by bike. It's a pleasant picture to see him every day. And then finally, I realized it must be the anarchism in the title because I teach sociology of deviant behavior. And probably it's time to discuss what does anarchism mean? Is it the violation of rules, and what kinds of rules, and for whose rules are we violating? So you have this afternoon been presented with a variety of voices and narratives. First from Bas Umali, isang local organizer in local autonomous network, presented to us the history of the activities in his organization and in their engagements in the grassroots and the communities in disseminating information and encouraging people to act. And then second, you have the narrative of Keith McHenry, who have given us this very interesting first-hand when he was talking, what was running to my mind was, oh, this is exactly the tree hugger that, that I have in mind, and how more than the government, more than the Red Cross, during crises like the Katrina hurricane disaster and the San Francisco earthquake, you have a people's organization getting there first and answering the needs of people before the government, from whom we really expect help to come from. And then we have Bert Peeters, whose campaign Stuck to Me, Boycott the Mall. Oh, I've done that. I lasted a month in boycotting the mall. And that mentioning to us that we are not bound by the borders of nation and state, and that we have in fact lived in one global world. And what he presents to us is challenging our lifestyles. Are we going to embrace the lifestyles presented simply to us by profit-driven interests of corporations, or the limited bureaucratic prescriptions of the government? So what you have this afternoon are people working for the defense of our environment. They're not from the DNR, they're not from the government. I suspect only Mr. Takuro Higuchi is from the academy. No, or from a university. They're presenting to us alternative and presenting to us the positive definition of anarchism, and that is stepping outside the usual pathways to do things. So the concepts of a decentralized action, the non-hierarchical organization, and direct action. So, and finally, Mr. Takuro Higuchi here presented to us, at least to me, the new image of Japan as this people in strong solidarity, and they hardly question authority. And then you have here a clear picture that after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, you have many groups, instances, masses of Japanese people demonstrating and questioning the Japanese nuclear program. So we will now entertain questions. You may please identify yourselves. yourself, you're asking the question, and to whom are you directing the question. And for this is my only not hierarchical request. May I please recognize you first before you ask the question? Okay? Yes, Christine.
Good afternoon, I'm Christine Alvarez, currently a postgraduate student in sociology. So this question, actually it's a comment and a question for Bas. Okay, so first siguro disclaimer muna, this should not be understood as a rejection of or a disregard for small-scale initiatives to address environmental and ecological problems as well as the climate crisis. However, it appears to me that LAN's direct actions, which consists of permaculture teach-ins, FNB, disaster response, and relief work, are individualist in nature and lacking in radicalism, which is something that we really see in the direct actions of anarchists usually from the global north. So that's my comment. My question is, so besides the process involved in decision making and the critique of capitalism that informs the collective's decisions and actions, how are LAN's responses to the climate crisis different or distinct from the solutions long espoused and undertaken by environmental groups, collectives, and individuals that do not have anarchist leanings? Yun. And siguro follow-up na din dun sa question na yun. Because at one point, I was also interested in social movements, particularly in environmental groups. So I would also like to ask why you think there are less shocking or less radical direct actions in the Philippines that are undertaken by anarchists as compared to those that we regularly get from InfoShop, from Libcom, and from other anarchist news sources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean. Sa part ng local autonomous network, decision making is actually we're just following the basic principles of consensus. So those people who are interested in a specific campaign, they will actively participate the process of from the discussions, planning up to implementation of the campaign. So it is informal, and anybody can raise an issue. Pagka na-attract yung mga tao dun sa issue, then we will discuss some details, and after that we will ask the commitment to pursue the campaign. So I don't know kung anong ibig sabihin ng radicalism, but for us, for me personally, radicalism is pag yung pag-alis mo dun sa defined system ng mga institutions like corporations, church, academe, they define systems for you. Ngayon, you can be radical as throwing rocks in Starbucks or McDonald's, etc. You can do it. Pwedeng gawin yun ng ilang mga, yun ang kanilang bias. Pero for me, as yung nag-advocate tayo ng anarchism, and for me, anarchism is a concrete alternative na makakasustain ng environment and human relationship. Yun sa akin ang isang form of radicalism. And secondly, tingnan mo yung second question.
Kasi di ba kung magtingin tayo ng mga feed, ang dami nating nakikita ng mga ganong batuhan or occupations, physical occupations, ganon. So, My question is, sa tingin mo, since matagal ka na rin sa movement na ito, bakit mas kaunti kaya yung mga ganong klaseng actions? Siguro, my hunch is that, of course, it also has to do with the numbers, no? And siguro in the West, anarchism is more established din talaga. Other than that, what do you think could be the reasons for that?
Actually, we are struggling talaga to strengthen our legal movement. One of the major constraint that we have a consensus yung karamihan sa mga communities, karamihan sa mga activists now is basically struggling to acquire appropriate skills and capacity to maintain the movement. So sa ngayon, there are plenty of youth na interested doon sa movement, but most of their yung kanilang initiative ay mas influence pa na kung ano yung nakikita na anarchism sa West. Kasi generally, we are Americans eh. Ang umalis ng mga Spaniards, we are Americans na. So, susukatin ka based dun sa standard ng mga Amerikano. I'm sorry, kid. So, and even most of the anarchist literature that we have here is from the US. So, ganun ang magiging challenge sa atin. Kaya, sa akin personally, tsaka sa Indocumentado Productions, sa pagkipag-collaborate sa Basalan, in-encourage ko sila na to go deeper. Mas okay yung bahag para sa akin. Of course, it is not practical, lalo na kung lumaki tayo, ni-raise na tayo ng lipunan natin na bilang sibilisado. So, isang challenge yun. Pero ako, I agree with Bert Peeters na yung technology naman, kung alam mo, conscious ka kung paano mo gagamitin, nandiyan yan. So, bakit hindi na ako gagamit ng LCD kasi miminahin yan eh, or etc. So, pwede naman kasi mag-create ng mga products na tatagal. So, na hindi siya create para sa profit. So, tapos, yun, struggling din tayo kasi karamihan sa mga form ng mga anarchist comrades natin. Yun nga, mas tingin natin, mas magiging anarchist tayo pagka naka-black tayo. Pwede rin naman kasi yung methods of ng methodology of anarchism, napakadami niyan eh. Hindi yan naman mako-confine lang sa So yun, thank you.
Good
afternoon, I am Bede Lucas. I'm with the UP Asian Center Alumni Association. First, I did not get an impression that anybody here, particularly the speakers, were advocating for anarchism. Like Filomeno, I put structure on a situation where it's kind of unstructured. First, I think anarchism was defined differently by the four presenters. Well, okay, Bert Peeters defined anarchism as direct action. McHenry defined anarchism as, okay, let me think. Maybe, no, I'm trying to put things in a sentence. No. As, did you say do it yourself? Is that you? Well, let me just go up to my notes, no. But anyway, Bert Peeters defined anarchism as something that is empowering, so you have to take responsibility for it. Anyway, and then Mr. Defined anarchism as, grassroots democracy, or he calls it new democracy. No, that's how I got the presentation. Well, anyway, all the four of you is talking about a crisis situation, particularly the environment area. And anarchism is not really chaotic, no. It's really doing something to solve this crisis situation. I think that's how I got the presentation.
Any comments first from the speakers? What I wanted to say is, I think what all four shared is the risk of getting arrested to forward change in society.
Yeah. Well, is that working?
Yeah, I think that what all of us share, a lot of people, you know, the corporate media and the governments around the world for, you know, over 150 years have tried to say that anarchy equals chaos. But anarchists have actually been saying that that anarchy is about all the people having an ability to direct their own lives how they collectively want to do it, without there being leaders and a hierarchy telling you how to do it. So that's like I think we all the people on the panel are sharing that definition of anarchy, which is shared by actually most anarchists that I have run across, and that's what's important, that we're not having a government or a corporation going, oh, you need to go over here and do that, or whatever, that we ourselves are determining the decisions that impact ourselves, you know, and at the same time, we're not making decisions that impact somebody else who doesn't have a say, because we want them to make decisions that impact themselves, for themselves. So that, I think, is really what's happening. And it's not the traditional corporate image that we're about creating disorder and that. But we're really looking for a horizontal, non-hierarchical way of organizing society that really reflects nature, because it's a diverse, there's this diversity, and as a result, because of that, it would be sustainable. And I think that's a lot of what you were saying. And so I think that's what's important. And then on the other issue, I think you're right about the numbers. The real big difference is that there's a lot more anarchists in Europe and America and Canada. But also at the same time, I think that there's no lack of sophistication in anarchist community in the Philippines or Indonesia. In fact, quite the opposite. I think a majority of the actual anarchists in these communities have a more sophisticated understanding of anarchy than I at least find in amongst a lot of anarchists in America. And I think that a lot of the image of what's happening from America that's coming here is not necessarily actually what's happening in America. A lot of it is generated by sensational media accounts by the corporate media, mostly to scare the Americans and to fearing the anarchists. So, you know, I think it's we're not really quite as extensive as it might appear once the news arrives over here.
Questions?
Okay, I have a question for Bert and a question for Bas. But first, I'd like to mention a little bit of anarchist history. It's an interesting case which draws the lines between what you're all about. I'm an anarchist community development worker at the moment, trying to understand the Philippines, having lived here for a few years. The case of anarchism in Spain and its influence from Italy and how that came across. In Italy, the union movements, the syndicalism was really big, and that started to be adopted in the cities in Italy. It was not about affinity groups, but they did have wildcat groups, small, radical, They could do secret, independent actions, which is more like what you're saying. With the influence of Francisco Ferrer and the free school movement, they were particularly strong in the provinces, teaching people, teaching them English, because they were being kept ignorant and ineffective. When one of the side effects of that was municipalism, where they were facilitating, but like what you were saying, their role was to, they called it municipalism. It was running places by town meetings. Just as a side to that, particularly in post-World War II Korea, there was a large electoral anarchist movement that basically did the same thing. The way that the autonomous groups have been radical, and the way that all of anarchism has been radical, is often through the influence of anarchist methods and techniques. So, come the revolution in Spain, suddenly anarchist groups' size becomes 100-fold greater, because people join in existing networks, they grow, and certainly my experience with anarchism is that people don't need to be taught it so much. They do tend to adopt it culturally. If everyone else is doing it, they do it, they find it works, it's very intuitive. It's a type of thing that people do anyway. And there are arguments also, there are different tactics, mass and anti-mass anarchist tactics, which the Japanese example comes into. When you have an anti-mass method, then people are learning by example what you're doing. When you've got a massive movement, it becomes cultural. You do have a culture of protest. Everybody joins in. In sociological terms, I guess you could say it becomes part of our shared life world, to paraphrase Habermas. Okay, the questions. Bas, the solar-powered lighting just doesn't seem very ambitious. If you're going to have the power there anyway, I was looking at using a regular Wi-Fi modem with a laptop, which doesn't require much power, and a satellite dish, yay big, which I know I can pick up from Australia, small satellite dishes as well. You can actually broadcast the internet for 100 kilometres with a relatively small solar-powered setup, for a cost of about $8,000 set up in the town or wherever it is, and about $3,000 for a receiver if you're just using a cheap Android tablet as a receiver. Have you thought about doing more once you've got the solar power and the batteries? And basically, once you start, there's a lot you could do. But similar sort of question: the uptake of permaculture by your neighbours. What in Cabiokid? What I'm seeing, I have friends who are terrible with the names of the provinces, but who are from north of you, which is why I was interested in the native people and the NPA and the influencing, because they don't have any internet, neither do they have English or Tagalog. But they could use videos and instructional videos of how to do things. There could be a network to translate some of this, but most important, they need a way to report the abuses of the army, who tend to come in and kill the villagers because they're easier to kill than they are to actually kill the NPA. With my question, the problem is that so many people who are tenant farmers are giving half of their money to the owners of the land. They're basically renting. And I know that as a permaculturalist, I've got suspicion that I may have actually done my certificate with you. But that's beside the point. In series? Did you do this in series? No, okay, it wasn't good one. I have a friend who, they got some money, relatives working overseas, they decided to buy their own land. First thing they did, they moved into the city, they got tenant farmers. It seems to be when people move from being renters to owners, the first thing they want to do is get other people working for them, especially in the Philippines. This is I don't know if you call it post-colonial or capitalist or whatever, but if you want to make the money in the Philippines, you have to own and you have to get other people working for you. There's a strong tendency to capitalism. How are the farmers around you who don't own their land able to pick up and implement and take risks with permaculture? Whereas the tribal people, I think, might be more inclined to do it by the introduction of new species. So that was my question to you. Have you tried that with the tribal people? And Bas, has the group thought of doing the internet as well as lighting?
It should work. I don't think I did.
Hello. I've been working with IP communities for about 15 years now. For me, I think in the long run, for me, every Filipino is an indigenous person. The problem really lies with the attitude of people. I mean, you can propose many things. Land reform can be good for people, but very often it always boils down that people are just, like you said, I like that image. That they put somebody else, they have to work on the land, and they themselves are going to be laborers in the city, earning money during the day, and then at night they charge their own tenants, even if they just receive the land from CARP. So the attitude has to change first before you can come in with anything. Permaculture will not work if you think it's a quick solution to a big problem. It's not going to work. So with IP people, I would not come in with videos. I would just say the information that you guys are sitting on is the one that we should all receive, basically. So it's the reverse. I don't think we teach them with videos of National Geographic about how to deal with nature. Forget about it. But then again, it's not always romantic, no? There's a lot of poisoning going on, and the Philippines is losing the cultural diversity faster than we can imagine here. I think every month we lose one language or we lose another cultural artifact. That's reality. It's painful to see that, but the influence of American culture, Spanish culture, has been very, very deeply ingrained already in the habits and the values and the way people do things. So permaculture, it's a kind of difficult to come in communities. We really have to work 1 to 2 years to break that stubbornness in giving me a quick fix solution to my problem. I'm poor. I need money. If you start to anchor yourself and inoculate yourself with the capitalist economy, then you're running after money and you're not going to plant crops in the uplands in a tropical ecosystem. They are not going to give you a quick cash return on your investment. And to change that, it really acquires more than just coming in with a solution. You come in with a set of solutions. It's really like a system. And I try to talk a little bit about permaculture as a design system, and you probably know it. So the design system comes with a certain level of complexity. So that takes time. I think we have some good success stories left and right in communities, but then you can see when leadership is good, when people have really a stake in what they're doing in the community, and their stake is not at, I want to have a piece of land so I can make it as a collateral to go abroad. If it's really like I want to farm or I want to do something with the land, then the success stories are very good. But if in many, 80% of the communities, it's really about owning the land and then to collateralize the land and commodify it, and then try to send your kids abroad to be able to make money. And then I think whatever solution you have will not give much of a solution, basically.
I was interested in the success stories. You just said there are some.
Yes, we have some success stories. We're working a lot. I did work in Kinapawan, in Mindanao, and in Palawan, in Coron, Busuanga. That's the new Boracay, so watch out. We all like to go to Coron, Busuanga for the white beaches, but all the Boracay people are coming in to buy the land. So the success story really comes into claiming the land. And then I realized there is one good law in the Philippines, that's the ancestral domain law, and I think we should all apply for it. Because that means the title is in the hand of the community. There is no name on it, and there's thousands of hectares in your name. And you have to decide as a community what and who can come in and do something on your land. But now the prevalent thing is tax debt with government, and government keep on accepting tax debt, which are not, it's not a proof of ownership in the first place. But the conflicts of people coming in with a few millions, buying an island, saying, now I have my private island. So we really created a success story in the sense that suddenly these people feel empowered. They realize that this is our land, and now we can decide the fate of that land and the fate of our community. And if they decide to still invite a big resort to come in and develop a certain beach, fine, but then that's a community decision. I'm out of it, we cannot do anything about it. But the process of helping people to reclaim and kind of become part of the human fabric, the social fabric of the Philippines. For me, that's a success story. Because these people were just nomadic, semi-nomadic. So then we have other cases where people, through cooperativism, I think cooperativism is still a very beautiful law in the Philippines. It's a law, it's a rule, there are rules there. But the fact that people come together to determine the scale of economics that they want to hold and entertain, it's quite empowering. And again, there are many cooperatives that are going down the drain and again go the capitalist way and then also collapse. But there are a few that are simple, keep the level of earning simple, don't grow as capitalist economies are growing, and they are doing quite fine.
Minimum of 20 people.
Huh?
Minimum of 20 people.
Minimum of 20 people, yes, but I mean, that's a nice number to start, and it can grow to 100 people. Not too big, there are monster cooperatives, they're only dealing with cash transfers. But the small cooperatives where people are building something, I'm not talking about the cooperatives that are loaning and lending, because that's not doing anything. But then the ones that are starting to make local products made of materials that are growing on site. To add a little bit of value, it gives people an inspiration and a kind of strengthening that is and empowering. And I think for me, going back to your question, anarchy, the negative connotation that comes with anarchy, you take it away by looking at an empowering, positive attitude and movement. I mean, I think Filipino culture, for that matter, is also not to smash down in the windows of Starbucks. And I think we have to accept that. It's if the brand of anarchy comes out of the violence and the aggression and the frustration of some people, we can also reverse that into positive action and do something today that is, let Starbucks die out slowly, or let Henry C. eat his millions. If we don't shop there anymore, yeah, he will eat his millions, basically. I mean, there are little things and they are maybe futile, but then again, it grows if people start seeing the connections. And seeing people to pick up that little bit of empowerment that they never had before, I think that's a success story. And just one last comment, no? In the farm area of Cabiokid, which is Nueva Ecija, which is in the middle of the lowland rice fields of Nueva Ecija, it's very hard to convince people because many of them are really slaves of the system, and their children are slaves of the system. You can buy any land there, they will convert it into tricycles, jeepneys, they build a cement house and they live in a house oven, baking themselves to death basically, and after 7 years they go back to poverty. When I think we can all agree that in 25 years the cart can start over again. We can let it die now, but all the lands that are distributed are basically going back to the hands of the landlords, because there is no system that will help and make these people see that don't run after the money in the first place, try to do something with your land. So as a permaculturist, I also tell the doors are wide open, but I'm not going to spend my energy convincing people who don't want to be convinced. So that's another dilemma you deal with. Attitude is sometimes like a closed door and you have to break open the door, and I cannot do that. These people can break open their own door if they see something in what we are doing. So sometimes it's a slow process as well. But I think I can live with that. I can live with that because I need to focus my energy also on the positive things that I believe in are important to change society and do something better.
I'm sorry, Kim, I missed your question.
You're sort of doing more with alternative power, in particular alternative internet. A lot of provincial areas have bad internet, intermittent internet, and it's a great opportunity even when the internet is off to have a laptop with a file server that people can then share files, so you at least get a local internet. But you need to just teach them how to build a better antenna. like I used to use an umbrella covered with tinfoil and a Wi-Fi. And yeah, have you thought of doing more with it?
We are still on the process of learning those, although you share some of your technology. But we are on the process. Actually, we are supposed to have a workshop on solar. Ang kaya niyang patakbuhin is laptop and maliit na fan to start with. We are going to install it in info shops and in Tanay Rizal. So, pero we can explore that thing. For your very
There's also Cienlitas labs. There's a lot of small groups that call themselves anarchists, but basically are do-it-yourself groups. And I know there's people in that are into solar, so they may be able to help as well. I'm going to be away for a couple of months.
Chung, narinig mo, sige. Because he is the one
I think we can spare for one more question. Any know you have oh, meron pa. Okay lang na. Okay. Siguro isang last questions, but the speakers will be here, and after pagkatapos ay pwede natin silang kausapin.
Hello. Hi, my name is Christier from Anandamarga, and I post in El Nido. Again, I'm very excited. So, right in there, I do permaculture also and try to build the structures for sustainable and IGP, like treasury programs, and it's a very big project that things are very easy to organize. And right now I'm trying to head into Russia or Europe for funding. But my basic question is, how can I find you people as a core group so we can make things happen, like more making good communication and good community, not only for put more romantic, like there's artists in there that saying metaphorical words that sometimes miscommunicate the different kind of societies, including chaos, destruction. These words are very romantic in figure, in manner. So what we need is, according to our thinking guy, or very good one, yeah, we can promote good media through that kind of antenna. We can put application in cell phones and put ourselves in there, like Woodstock toilet, and we can put PJs in there or radio stations that can promote their good culture. And in that manner, we don't need a big infrastructure, some sort of a engine thing. We're very on antenna and just make a Java mobile or Android phone or some sort of Python, Symbian Python, and can put application in there and to just promote the culture for uniting the people to more human thing. And because we cannot deny technology is our rights, and in some sort of because we're also into I can't really deny God because it really exists, this relationship with it. Although I'm very anarchist in my own fucking blood, although we cannot deny this kind of being, this super God, the upper one. And the relationship with the relationship of it is undeniable. So I think we can move, redirect things, and still we can help. But my question is basically how we can make a very fast movement, very fast manner. Like, hey, I need help here and here and doing this kind of thing. Yeah, we can reverse engineer solar panels that are built with just paint and solution. You can buy an e-paint and a couple of you just paint the thing. You can reverse engineer it, and then you don't need those glasses and then cheap wire, and you can have a step up coil, and you can have 250 watts. But my basic question: how can I go with you guys? Because you're very iconic thing. Yeah,
so yeah, thank you very much. I think your point is more of a comment and a desire to network with our speakers. Yeah, so I think we can do that. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time, and we wish to thank everyone.
Maybe you can announce your activity.
Maybe last words you from the speakers. Maybe you have activities coming. You can advertise them.
No, we just have an upcoming permaculture course if someone is interested, March 16 to 22. What we really do is to share the technology. I mean, it's open source, so there are bundle trainings we give. People can mobilize us to give trainings in their own communities. We do advanced permaculture trainings, and I think for me, what I try to understand from your last question was like, well, if we all start doing something in whatever place we live and in whatever environment we have available to us, I think we can use that as our calling card. I mean, we don't need to start boosting and pretending. It's just like, come and see, and if you don't believe what we are doing, then shout it out to the world. If you like what we are doing, then adapt it and learn it and then do it yourself. And as more we do, the more we do, the more I think we improve also on doing all of these things. And it's not about the solar panel per se, it's really about how do we harness energy in a better way. That's the real tricky questions. So please do feel free to come and visit Cabiokid at any time. And there are other projects. If you go to happen to go to Coronto Beach, then you can also have a site visit. If you go to Isabela province in the north, then you can visit communities. If you go to Tiwi Albay in Bicol, we have a very nice project there, so you can go and combine the beach and volcanoes and climbing. So we can do ecotourism with anarchy and with permaculture. It all falls together into something nice.
Yeah, and tonight we are having a presentation about food not bombs, both in the Philippines and how it started. And it's at the Conspiracy Bar and Garden Cafe. And there's information out on the table about that. And a lot of us were going to kind of slowly leave from here and go over there. So we will have a short video about food not bombs in Africa, so people can see how this is like a global movement. And there's so many food not bombs groups in this area. It would be wonderful if you were interested in joining one of them and helping build the movement. And it's a way to really reach the local community with our ideas and to become like a foundation for like greater change. So, thanks.
Please announce your
Okay. Okay.
You should announce it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm Mel. I'm one of the, I'm the affinity group of the Mobile Anarchist School Project, which organizes this event with Third World Study Center and local news network. As there are different anarchist info coming from different perspectives in different countries. We have Japan, we have US. And also I would like to announce, because we invited our comrades also from Indonesia, and then last time we didn't, it's supposed to be 2 days, but we missed the second day because the Third World Study Center has an activity on the 11th and 12th, I guess, 13, and then so the Indonesia missed the info, which is very important because they have struggles, environmental struggles going on there. They resist mining, and they have this very difficult struggle they face because of this mining capitalism going on in Indonesia. And I just want to announce that they have some info there in the tables, which is free. So you can come get their literatures. You have the table that is free, and they printed, we photocopy earlier. I helped them photocopy the stuff with my Indonesian friend. I went there before, and that's why in return I invited them also. So hopefully you get the copies, and it's free for you. For more info, details about Indonesian struggle and anarchism in Indonesia. Thanks.